and welcome back to Beyond Earth News. I'm your host, David, and with me is my co-host, Zach. Zach, can you give us a preview about what we'll be going over today?
Sure. We are going to cover Starliner's launch. After several delays, it's finally gotten off the ground, carrying 2 NASA astronauts to the International Space Station.
Excellent. Well, that's a pretty exciting topic. Let's dive into it.
Well, I'm more than happy to say that Starliner has finally made it into orbit. The crew of the test flight consists of spacecraft commander Butch Wilmore and pilot Suni Williams, and they are aboard the spacecraft that they have named Calypso. With an instantaneous launch window, any delay or hold would have resulted in another scrubbed launch. Luckily, operations ran smoothly throughout the morning of June 5th, and at 10:52 a.m. Eastern Time, the engines of the ULA Atlas rocket ignited, and the rocket lifted into the sky. The flight lifted off from Launch Complex 41, located at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Florida.
As any spaceflight enthusiast would know, space is hard. It's difficult to get off of Earth and into Earth's atmosphere and outer space, and because of that, the first 2 launch attempts were delayed from May into June. The original launch date had been May 6th, but a faulty valve in the ULA Atlas rocket was detected and the launch was scrubbed. The valve was quickly replaced and a new launch date of May 17th was chosen. As that date approached, a small helium leak was detected in the Starliner capsule, and that launch was pushed back again. The leak was determined to be a non-issue, and the next attempt would be made on June 1st. That launch was scrubbed with 3 minutes 50 seconds left before launch by an automated abort after one of 3 redundant ground computers gave slower than normal readings. That issue was thankfully resolved, and the launch was moved to June 5th.
Starliner successfully docked with the International Space Station on June 6th at 1:34 p.m. Eastern Time. This was after a bit of delay caused by some issues with Starliner's thrusters, but those issues were mostly resolved and the docking went ahead. The Starliner crew boarded the space station at 3:45 p.m. Eastern Time. As David said, spaceflight is difficult, human spaceflight even more so. As frustrating as delays and scrubs can be, the safety of the crew is the priority.
Speaking of the crew, let's turn our attention to the human element of the flight. Commander Butch Wilmore and pilot Suni Williams.
Barry Butch Wilmore was born in 1962. He is a U.S. Navy test pilot and joined the NASA Astronaut Corps in 2000. He has previously flown to space twice, equaling 178 days in space. He flew on Space Shuttle Atlantis as part of STS-129 in 2009 and flew to the ISS on a Russian Soyuz in 2014.
Sunita Suni Williams was born in 1965. She is a U.S. Navy helicopter and test pilot. She was selected to become a NASA astronaut in 1998. She has flown to space twice, equaling 322 days in space. She flew on Space Shuttle Discovery to the ISS in 2006 as part of STS-116. She returned from her tour on the ISS on Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2007 as part of STS-117. Finally, she did a second tour on the ISS, launching aboard a Russian Soyuz in 2012.
With the mission being a test flight, Suni and Butch will be conducting various tests on the flight to and from the International Space Station. These tests include things such as manually operating the vehicle, making sure it responds to their controls. Other things are making sure the spacesuits and the chairs and the displays are all functioning properly in a microgravity environment. While docked to the station, the pair will continue to focus their activities on Starliner. They will look at things such as how easily the vehicle can be used as a lifeboat in the case of an emergency, to things such as how easily the cargo can be transferred from the vehicle to the station and back.
So how long is this test flight? NASA says that the mission needs could change, but June 14th would be the earliest potential return date. It's interesting to note that Starliner is designed to set down on land like Soyuz, as opposed to the Dragon or other American capsules which were designed to splash down in water. Starliner will be targeting deserts in Utah for landing sites.
So there you have it. Starliner has made it to space. It's docked with the International Space Station. America now has 2 options to get to space. But David, let's hear your thoughts on this topic.
Well, they say the third time is the charm, and I'm glad that even though there were a couple delays, It didn't take as long as NASA Administrator Bill Nelson's 6 attempts to get out.
Yeah.
So I think the relative speed with which we've been able to get Starliner up and docked is only a good sign of things to come. And with that instantaneous launch window, there's so much that could go wrong, and I'm glad that so few things ended up going wrong. It's also exciting to have more crewed flights and getting both the Commander Butch and pilot Suni back in space is exciting for everybody involved, I think. What are your thoughts?
Oh, well, I think we're seeing the fruition of NASA's goal of having dissimilar redundancy. So they have always had the goal of wanting SpaceX and Boeing to provide transportation up. This is, after the hard lesson of Space Shuttle, when that got shut down and America found itself unable to launch our astronauts into space. We had to rely on Russian Soyuzes to get our astronauts to the International Space Station. We didn't want that to happen anymore, so NASA set out with the goal of, hey, let's get 2 providers giving us options, so that if something happened with SpaceX Dragon and they were grounded for a while, we're not stranded. We can now use Boeing to get our astronauts up there. And then on the other hand, they've also wanted to foster an economy in low Earth orbit. So this is another way of doing that. They're seeing that future of multiple space stations, multiple destinations, and having multiple providers gives not only NASA but future customers options on how to get people to those places. So I think all in all, this is a pretty big deal. It's great that we now have these options. Hopefully we'll see more options pop up in the near future. Maybe Dream Chaser, we talked about them in the past. Hopefully that becomes human rated at some point. But anyway, those are my thoughts on it. Let's hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below.
Make sure you like and subscribe for more Beyond Earth news.
Thanks for watching.